Thank you very much, and very warm greetings from Niamey. Good morning, Nigerians, and also greetings to the studio personalities. First of all, to say that the issue of climate change is a social justice issue globally, whereby the most advanced economies are the one producing the greenhouse gases, and the developing and the least developed economies contribute to less than 5%. And unfortunately, also this in African countries, out of the 10 most vulnerable countries globally, so out of every 10 countries, 7 are from Africa. And that shows really the vulnerability of our economy and also our population. And all these impacts of extreme events due to climate change, due to climate variability, are being felt at the grassroots level. And so what is really very critical here is partnership. I'm happy to hear from my sister. I remember we met at Azerbaijan during the COP29, and I also raised an important issue of coordination at the national level of relevant departments and agencies of government that are doing a lot in terms of climate monitoring, and also in terms of climate adaptation and mitigation. So if you permit me, in the country there is abundant work scattered within MDAs and also research community. So to be able to reach the last mile, and that is what the World Meteorological Organization emphasizes, that whatever services in terms of climate adaptation, climate mitigation, early warning system, so the last mile, meaning the last pocket, meaning the community people at the district level, should be fully integrated in all the services. So meaning that we need to establish our baseline in the country. And if you permit me on the screen, I will show a document that was published just some few years ago by the country, Climate Change Adaptation Mitigation in the country, and how vulnerable it is. So this used over 100 years, thanks to NIMET, and also the researchers were selected from different geopolitical and eco-climatic zones of the country. So I think there is abundant knowledge and also of local adaptation, which should be integrated, local mitigative actions that exist in the country. So I will hereby advise that there is need for more effort of coordination at the parallel level, at the national level, and then also more coordination at the vertical level between central government, the national government, and also the state and the local government levels. So on this, is good to leverage on the existing frameworks. I know since 2013, Nigeria has proposed the national framework for climate services, whereby you have all the actors involved in terms of producers of service, and then also in terms of research, and also linking to the users, so that all these actions we are bringing in terms of mitigation, clean energy, transition, adaptation, smart agriculture. So we need to integrate localized knowledge. African farmers, rural populace, people in the country, they have abundant local knowledge that needs to be integrated into this. So I will suggest that national framework document is lying somewhere, and many African countries have adopted their own. If you look at the WMO Global Framework website, you see that Nigeria also needs to ratify that document. So if I may now appeal to the National Climate Change Council, because the ratification and implementation of that document will fast track the achievements of most of the climate change adaptation and mitigative actions that are being proposed in the country. And of course, also my brother, Professor Awal, the involvement of the research community is very critical. Whereby, because there's a lot of abundant knowledge that exists in that quarters. So that framework brings all the actors together so that all adaptation, mitigations, and any other early warning system is taken into consideration of the users. So we are going to put the users in the driver's seat, and that is what the center here in Niamey also of WMO that coordinates at continental level application of climate services. So we need to see user interfaces being established in the country under the National Climate Change Council, whereby you have agri-user interface platforms. You then also have the energy, you have the environment, and then also health and other sectors. So by the time you have this user interface, it becomes a marketplace whereby you have the producers of service, you have the private sector, and then you have representative of the users. And by doing that, you're getting well connected in the value chain, and most of the activities will be fast-tracked in terms of the implementation because there is high vulnerability in the country. If you check the climate change document published by NIMED and other partners in the universities, it shows how vulnerable we are because we have seen a lot of increase in temperatures, heat waves is increasing, the rate of deforestation is over 380 hectares per annum. And it's really very scary that we need to take this in all fronts, whereby we should be doing adaptation, mitigations, and other actions together. Because if not, there will be a lot of gaps in implementation. But I'm happy with the framework of the NCC and also the coordination they're having. And also I want to congratulate my brother, the legislator that sponsored this very important bill that materialized into these commissions. But I also want to mention that the country is doing a lot and needs to also create a lot of partnership at the continental and at international level. Also beyond energy transition, we can attract a lot of funding to the country through some of this partnership. And also the center is also open to this. And I'm happy also to extend hands of partnership to the country on this.
Still with you briefly, you know, the Paris Agreement, you know, represents a significant global, you know, effort to tackle climate change through cooperation and communication. And you talked about being capital intensive, you know, the fight for climate change to ensure that countries come on board. Now, you are at the World Meteorological Organization and Regional Climate Center. How did you receive the news of the immediate withdrawal of the United States of America from the Paris Agreement? And how do you think, talking about cost, and how do you think this will, you know, affect or impact climate change, you know, advocacy around the world?
Thank you very much for that important question. As I made mention earlier, that the issue of climate change is a social justice whereby the major polluters needs to be more responsible. So the announcement by the new U.S. president was really very heavy blow for America being one of the heaviest polluters to back out of the Paris Agreement, meaning that there could be, and definitely there will be caught in the climate financing. And also, you remember also part of these promises for the creating maybe energy emergency to produce more oil within the country. And that will also mean some more emission of the greenhouse gases. And that will affect the adaptation and mitigation. And of course, the clean energy. So it's really, and that is why scientists really needs to continue to speak to the decision makers in the language that the decision makers understand. And that is why WMO is really emphasizing the link between science and policy. So science should go beyond science for development. Science should not be science for service. And that is what WMO is really advocating. I know it will take almost 1 year before the US should be able to officially back out, but it will really slow down the issue of climate finance globally. But I would like to advise, as a country, Nigeria, there are many windows, there are many organizations that offer projects in terms of carbon credit, in terms of climate monitoring, local adaptation projects in different multi-sectoral units and approaches. So I advise that really America is backing out, but if you look at how America has been impacted by the effect of climate change, they are really getting the heat, and I'm sure there will be a turning point to this. But we should continue to be more responsible environmentally, even though we emit less than 4%, but we are most vulnerable. And that means that we should do more actions at the local level. So that some of these international shocks will have minimal effect to us. So I will want to advise as a country to be able to coordinate more with regional partners that will be able to attract many funding. There are different funding windows under different organizations that could be attracted globally in addition to the Paris Agreement implementation framework. But it's quite unfortunate, and as scientists, this is one of our dull moments. But really, we're really going to continue to stress more on this. And I know also in Brazil, there will be a lot of actions that need to be pushed, and we'll continue to do this. So, but generally, we need to do more of local adaptation and also local mitigative actions that will be able to control this. Recently, United Nations made a statement that climate doesn't stop at borders, and how we manage this risk also shouldn't ever stop at the borders. So we are living under the same umbrella, and I'm sure most of the systems that pass over West Africa are the ones that are producing the hurricane and storms in America. And recently, they are just coming out of the incidents of the forest fire. And all these are as a result of some of the triggers of extreme events that creates more convective activities that triggers forest fires. But as a country, I think we are doing well. So we need to do more to be able to have shocks so that some of these international politics decisions within the climate arena will not have much effect on us.